What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Wednesday Night Mythic Conversations. It feels like it's been so much more than a week. I took last week off because it was my Thanksgiving Eve tradition to spend time with my family and watch planes, trains, and automobiles. Well, that was awesome. Absolutely had fun doing that. I totally missed all of you, in part because I was really excited to do the content that we're going to cover tonight's episode. We're going to look at the Poxus wave, which crazy. It's was revealed weeks ago now, right? We're on like 3 weeks ago. Obviously, the week after G-Con, I was focused on just kind of recapping Mythic Weekend, and I was still buzzing from that glow of that experience. So I really wanted to cover that. And then last week I took off, as I mentioned. So it feels like it's been a while since Poxus was revealed. But I'm still super excited for it, as I'm sure you are as well. I really want to go through the figures today, give you some of my impressions of them. I've also seen them all in person, obviously, so I can give you some of my impressions both from the photos and from the in-person seeing them and holding them, and then talk about some of the new parts that they feature, because sometimes that's a little hard to see in the photos what the new pieces are. I'm already thinking about how I'm going to use these pieces, which figures I need extras of, so I can, use them for different pop and swaps or customs. So we'll talk about all of that tonight. Of course, I'm also here to interact with you. That's why it's called Mythic Conversations. Hit me up in the chat if you have questions or you want to start a conversation. But for those who may be joining for a first time, right, Mythic Legions and the Legions community is always attracting brand new fans, especially with a release like Poxus. New people are coming on board. So we may actually have new people who are checking out the show who don't know who I am. So let me introduce myself. My name is Jeremy Gerard. I'm a Mythic Legions collector and customizer. I also have the distinct privilege of being the digital marketing manager for Horsemen Studios. That means that all the content that you see at Source Horsemen and beyond is content that I help to bring you. If you want to check out more of my work and the stuff that I do, my customs and so forth, you can certainly follow me on Instagram at Mythic Customs, all one word. I'm also here every single Wednesday night live at 7:30 p.m. Eastern time, doing this show, the weekly dose, or I should say one of the weekly doses of Mythic Legions conversation, because there's a lot of great content around there for Mythic Legions now, with Legions Lounge and 4 Horsemen o'clock, and obviously Legions Cast, Walter doing his live broadcast on the Cabal. There's so much out there. So thank you to everyone that continues to jump on board with me and join my show every single week. Thank you also to everyone who I met at Mythic Weekend that came up and thanked me for the show, thanked me for the work I do. A lot of people shared their appreciation of that work, and the number of people that told me that I'm a fixture in their houses every Wednesday night, that they're like, oh, my family knows every Wednesday night we sit down, we watch the show together. I cannot tell you how much that touches me, how happy that makes me to know that we get to share this every single week. That's super cool. So I'm going to hit the comments really quick. I'm going to see what people are talking about before I talk very briefly about news and then dive into the topic. Okay, let's see. So Tony, very nice comment here, says, time for my favorite show with my favorite YouTuber who just happens to be my favorite Mythic Legions action figure. talking about my favorite Mythic Legions wave. So, Tony, this has got everything you want tonight. Thank you very much for the kind words. Very cool. Patrick saying, hope you had a happy Thanksgiving. I did. I had a wonderful Thanksgiving. I hope you had it as well, Patrick, and everyone else tuning in as well. Tony says, hello, Uncle Jeremy. Hello, Tony. How you doing tonight? Thank you for tuning in like every week, buddy. Good evening, Sir Gerard. Still got to get used to people calling me Sir Gerard. That's a fun thing that's happened. Okay, let's see. How long do we have to order the Poxus wave? It is. I'm gonna check just so I'm positive. I'm almost positive it's January 9th, but I'm gonna go to the website just to make sure I do have that date right. Yep, January 9th at 11 p.m. Eastern time is the end of the pre-order. So you've got a pretty good window of time. It breaks down to almost 2 full months that the pre-orders open. So yeah, you absolutely have some time there. Joseph, yep, I just said that. So we're good there. Nate Strong, nice to see you here, buddy. Let's see. You have been missed, Sir Gerard. Well, thank you very much. Like I said, I missed you all as well. Stars asking what comes next. I clearly cannot answer that question. Rosedale saying, I have a weekly alarm set to watch your show so I don't forget. Man, whatever works for you, as long as you're here. Awesome. We know that Kragnar and the Dragonborn share the same body. Is there a chance of getting extra arm set and Kragnar heads in blue for the Dragonborn and a dragon headset in orange for Kragnar? I mean, in the future, who knows? They won't be added now. But who knows? I can't say what the future holds, what accessory packs or things there might actually be. So as far as news goes, and again, hit me up in the comments if you have questions along the way. Obviously, the big news today, if you were following, if you were on the Mythic Legions Cabal, or if you weren't and you just saw it on the website, the big news today, and I'm gonna bring this up really quick while I'm on screen here, so we can see it. So the big news today was that the little holiday gift, kind of like a Mythic Legions advent calendar, if you will, we revealed some, or at least the first of the additional heads that are going to be available in the Mythic Legions Poxus wave. If you go to sourcehorsemen.com and look on the news page, this article is actually there that includes this image. But to summarize the news for you, when we launched the line, when we launched the wave, the idea was that there were going to be stretch goal heads, similar to what happened with Cosmic Legions. Well, a couple things happened between that planning of doing that and the actual execution of it. Number one, the Legionnaire community was absolutely crazy with how they hit this thing right out of the gate. So if we would have had stretch goals, they would have unlocked a bunch of them pretty much right away, because you guys are awesome and you have been supporting this particular wave like never before. So thank you very much for that. So that's number one. Number two is a couple of the secret reveal heads kind of leaked out accidentally. A little bit of magic kind of leaked out during the reveal special. A couple of the photos actually did get posted on Store Horsemen accidentally. So a couple of those people saw them and realized, hey, this wasn't shown during G-Con. I think that this is a little something extra. So some of that information was already out there. And then finally, there's been so much going on. Things have been so busy that by the time we really got our ducks in a row, we realized that, you know what, let's not do stretch goals. Let's just open them all. Let's just unlock all 5 of them. All of these heads, all of these particular characters that get these extra heads, they're going to be included in the packages. So the first one revealed here, you can see is Thrace. Every Thrace is going to come with this head. It's not going to be, in the box or whatever. It'll be in the actual package. So if you buy 4 Thrace figures, you'll get 2 heads in each. You'll get a total of 8 heads. Rather than just say, hey, here are all the 5 heads, we thought it would be fun to do the kind of whole holiday advent calendar thing. So if you look at the photo here, you can probably figure out which characters the heads are going to go with. So if you're thinking about that for planning purposes, this will hopefully help you out, but it will still give you something to look forward to as we reveal exactly what these heads are. So pretty cool. I always think that's a lot of fun. Look, you're getting extra stuff. The prices don't go up and you get extra value. That's always a cool thing, right? Dave Orkin, happy birthday to you, buddy. Thank you very, very much for tuning in on your birthday. I would sing to you, but trust me, that would not be a gift you would enjoy. So I'm not going to. Pablo saying, now that Poxxus has introduced wizards, does that mean black powder will be introduced? You know what? I know in the past I've talked to Eric, and I don't think there's a lot of people that don't really like guns in their like fantasy type stuff. I feel like Eric told me that he's not a huge fan of that, but I think if you look at the Mythic Legion's tactics game, there's some of the classes that are in it are like Tinker and stuff like that, which would lend themselves to having those type of things. So who knows, as the realm expands, what we're actually going to see. Might see that. One more thing I'm going to show you here. Let's actually go. Actually, we'll look at Thrace's extra heads a little bit later when we actually talk about the Thrace figure. But that was actually, the big thing today. So if you were wondering, okay, what are the extra heads going to be, or what are the reveals going to be? Hopefully that teaser will give you a little bit of an insight what to expect, starting with Thrace Wraithhaler. Very, very cool. So excited about that. That's the big news going on right now. A couple weeks ago, when I started my show, obviously, I began the show with the very, very sad news about the passing of Justin Johnson. Justin does leave behind a wife and 3 small children at this time of year. I mean, not like any time is good for this, but definitely they're going through some struggles. There's a number of people that were very close to Justin that are putting together a variety of ways to try to help his family. I know there's a raffle right now on the Cabal for a Sir Gerard figure that it's like $5 an entry or something. So anybody, if you're looking for ways, if you were touched by his passing and you're looking for ways to help, keep your eyes open. There's a number of people that are putting together different kinds of fundraisers, very much in the spirit of this community helping each other. So be on the lookout for that as well, please. Greg, we'll talk about this. He says, what bodies do the 2 robed wizards use? This will help people plan for alternate heads. Greg, I literally already asked about it. They just have the bodies underneath them are kind of like the Elf Legion builder. They're those type of body part pieces, but we are planning to actually take those robes off and shoot those figures. We realize that a lot of people have asked for that. We've heard those comments. So we are going to take those shots so people can see underneath the robes what they actually look like. Because from a customizing and a fodder standpoint, the reality is we haven't had like 2.0 style figures in a little while. Now we're going to get some with the Mythic Legion's Tactics War of the Aetherblade Deluxe male and female elf and the deluxe female orc. That's going to give us some female 2.0 bucks and a male 2.0 buck that are going to be available for customs and bashes and stuff like that. But the last handful of waves have been very much focused on refreshing the parts library from 1.0. We're going to look at some of that as well. We have seen some 2.0 parts, but getting those 2 wizards that have the 2.0 bodies, I totally think that there are going to be some people that are going to buy them, not to keep them as wizards, but just to use those body parts for some of their ideas. Again, we're going to talk about that soon, but to answer your question directly, that is the type of bodies they are, and we are going to get some photography of them soon so you can actually see. Let's see. Go back a little bit here. What will the four horsemen expand to next? We'll see. We'll see. So Lewis saying, I think my biggest disappointment is that we didn't get any new light armor or cloth pots for 2.8 for 2.0 the way 1.0 got Arethyr and Alithia. It's a fair comment. You know, we did obviously get a few new 2.0 like female parts in the Alithia wave, you know, the torso on Artemis and the torso on Alithia. You know, the reality is the 1.0 stuff, there's huge gaps there. There's huge things. They've been using those parts for so long. They really do need to refresh those. We'll see them. We'll see some more 2.0 style lighter armor parts. Trust me. I mean, there's a laundry list of things that they want to do, which is one of the reasons why they always find it amusing when people suggest that the line is going to end after next year, after next G-Con, when the next Horseman wave gets revealed, that'll be the fourth Horseman, so that's the end. And they're like, we have so much more planned. Trust us, we're just getting revved up. As long as you're supporting the studio is going to crank out some awesome stuff. So no worries. One more note I'll mention: Legions Con 2021. Once again, thank you to everyone who was involved. Also, thank you to everyone who, after the fact. Did you notice that like the whole week after Legions Con, there was just multiple people posting kind of their photo dumps and their recaps? I feel like everyone went back to work that week. It was just kind of in a stupor. Like, what did I just experience? Like, it was such an incredible weekend. Look, honestly, I had super high expectations. It blew my expectations away. Being able to connect with all the people I did, I really just wish I had more time. We're working on it. The plans for 2022 are going strong. We hope to have some major announcements for you probably after the first of the year. Super cool. You are going to love what we have in store. So wait for that. Awesome. Cool. Let's talk about Poxus. So, like the previous couple waves that we've seen that are Horseman waves, we saw it with Arethyr, we saw it with Alithia, and we saw it with Poxus now. We are seeing an expansion on the parts library, which I've already alluded to a little bit today. This is one of the great things about the growing success of the line, is because the line is doing the volume that it is now. It has reached a certain level of success. You know, there's a lot more retailers supporting it. There's a lot more fans supporting it. That allows them to invest in things like new tooling. So we get waves like we've seen here that have all of these new parts. And if you've been following the progression of the new parts from Arethyr and Alithia, you see that those pieces make an absolute difference in the line right out of the gate. You know, the pieces that we got from the Arethyr wave, like the thicker torso that came with Magnus, we saw that immediately on some of the deluxe Legion builders. The new armor parts that we saw on the Red Shield Soldier, the new like shoulder pauldrons and the waist type piece, we saw that on the Dark Knight Templar. We saw that on Sir Gerard. When I put together the recipe for Sir Gerard, I loved those new armor pieces so much that I really thought that they would look great on the figure. And my goodness, do they ever. I love the way they came out. So you're already starting to see that. And then now, as we get into this most recent line, the Poxus wave, we're seeing some of those parts that we saw in Alithia start to get reused as well. So that's very, very exciting. Whenever they introduce new parts into the line, it allows the line to grow. It allows new types of characters to be developed. But additionally, as customizers, it gives us new parts to work with. Because as much as I love working with the existing parts library, anybody that's been doing this for a while can absolutely attest that when you get a new wave that's got a lot of new parts, like we saw with Arethyr, like we're going to see with Alithia and then now Poxus, the infusion of new creative ideas that brings forth is unprecedented. So Super excited for that. So what we're going to do is we're going to look at the figures one at a time. Going to give you my impressions. We can talk about it. You tell me what you think. I'll point out the new pieces, how I think they're going to be useful, all that fun stuff. Eric saying Jeremy gave his personal attention to hundreds of fans at Legion's Con. I did my best, Eric. I did my best. That anyone that wanted some of my time, I did my best to give them that time, and I walked away that much richer for it. You guys, it was an unbelievable experience. Nate's saying, exactly, Jeremy. I'm grateful I could go and experience. Can't wait for next year's. That's one of the most fun parts, Nate, is saying like, oh my goodness, this year was so great. How do we top it? Like we were talking about ways to top it. I mean, every time we do one, we learn stuff and we're like, okay, this was great. This we're going to improve upon next year. So yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Pablo, are there plans for another All-Stars wave? I cannot officially reveal what plans are, so I can't answer that. Let's see. Yeah, Adrian, interesting thing. Factory mistake, you know. It is what it is. Fans definitely work out, right? Adrian's referring to the fact that the standard Sir Gerard figures were apparently mispacked at the factory with the skeleton head that was meant to only be in the Legion's Con version. Like I said, it's a mistake. These things happen. It's an example of one of those classic Four Horsemen mistakes that the fans totally win in the end. An example would be when they shipped Avon of Decay and they mistakenly, instead of making the female barbarian, they made a whole bunch of extra male barbarians, which at the time was a super hard to find figure. And it just infused a whole nother run of those into the market. Happy accident. I guess this is a happy accident like that as well. Awesome. Okay, next, let's look at, so you know what I think we'll do is I think we'll go in the order that these were actually revealed during the reveal special, right? That makes a lot of sense, I think. So the first one that was revealed, I got to think back and remember, Azahazar. That was the first one, the demon. So let me bring up my screen here and we'll talk through this. Okay, cool. So Azahazar. This is the combined form of Azar and Zazar, the two demon brothers. If you check out sourcehorseman.com, on yesterday, actually, I posted a figure in focus article on Azar and Zazar. Really kind of dug into the history of those characters, showed actually some early prototype photos of them, some early paint masters, but took it all the way from a lore standpoint into this character here, this combined form. It's something that's been teased for a while. Yes. Okay, people hit me with questions. Joseph, are the four horns removable? Yes, they are all removable. They're actually the same horns that come in the helmet for Balthar the Tower, that ogre scale figure. They're the same kinds of horns, so they fit in there as well. Yes, Lebo, the fully painted Templar Legion builder, is another factory mistake that worked out greatly in the fans' favor. Awesome. I agree, Visionary. Merry Christmas. Move on. Thank you very much. I agree, buddy. So this is a figure. So interestingly, I've talked in the past about my first visit to Four Horsemen Studios for Intern for a Day. I saw this figure, or at least this figure head, all the way back then. This figure head has actually been sculpted for quite some time. When I first went to that Intern for a Day, ogres were not a thing yet. They weren't actually released. We got to see the very first ogre prototypes at that event. So we got to see, you know, what would eventually become Kurzog and what would be Balthal the Tower, Archimedes. All of those were available then, the Vampire Brute. And there's a couple that haven't even seen the light of day yet. This one is one that I saw all the way back then. And that was also the broadcast where Nolan, Eric Treadaway's son, was on camera, and he was messing around with actually kind of a little bashed up figure that had parts of Azar and Zazar on. It was like a yellow body with a blue head. And Cornboy and Iz were interviewing him, and they asked him what his favorite figure is, and he said when these two combine and they make the big green demon. And that was kind of a little fun reveal. It was totally off the cuff. It was a classic kid kind of revealing something. Nolan revealing stuff on G-Con has kind of become a little bit of a tradition since then, but that first year was absolutely off the cuff, super fun, and it gave fans kind of a glimpse into what would be coming with this character. So this is a figure that I will absolutely tell you, photos do not do it justice. And my apologies to Trevor Williams. Trevor Williams is a rock star when it comes to these things. He does an amazing, amazing job. When I say photos do not do it justice, that is in no way a slight on the photography. It is the fact that when you see these in hand, it's another level, absolutely another level. Trevor totally captures these things, but when you actually hold them, super, super cool. I saw these photos clearly well in advance of the reveal. When I actually got to the studio and saw the figure in hand for the first time, it blew me away. The green, that almost like glowing type green that is in the cracks that are on the chest and on the head, when you see it in person, it pops so, so much. The staff that he's got there, which what I love about this staff is if you notice, it's got like a yellow orb and a blue orb. So it's kind of like those combined powers. It's those combined colors of Azar and Zazar that are coming together in that staff for this particular character. Really cool weapon. I thought that was a lot of fun. As someone asked, are those horns removable? They technically are removable. So any of the horns that fit, that plug into the ogre helmets, like the new like the moose antlers that come with the head accessory pack, the half giant like accessory pack, those would totally work there. Any of those helmet attachments for the ogres should plug in there. Wonderfully cool figure. I love what they did. I mean, across this line, what they did with the soft goods, I think is wonderful. And I say that as someone who admittedly is not a huge fan of soft goods. I've said this before. I like plastic capes. I started collecting with McFarlane Toys Spawn, which they were all about the ridiculous plastic capes that were in one dynamic pose. I totally dig that. I get why soft goods has an advantage, especially for things like when you want to put them on a horse or something and you need to have some flexibility. But until I got into Mezco 112 Collected, I was not a big soft goods fan. Mezco turned me around because I got to see what could be possible. And what C. Jessam is doing with these prototype pieces is next level. Absolutely blows me away. And more importantly, seeing the factory pieces for the Alithia wave, because remember what you're seeing here, a lot of people ask about this. The way that this works is C. Jessam, they hand create the prototype soft goods pieces. Those are what go on these paint masters that you see that are used for photography and so forth. Then those prototype pieces are sent to the factories and the factories recreate them for the actual production. A worry would be that there's something lost in translation there, that what C. Jessam produces, one at a time by hand, can they reproduce that in quantity at the factory? The factory nails it. When you see the soft goods that are on the Alithia wave, they're absolutely gorgeous. And that's certainly going to carry through with the Poxus line, which is obviously a much more soft goods heavy wave. The paint on the hooves here, so cool. Love that color. Love, the that almost like glowing type effect. Obviously the belt is really over the top. It's got the Poxus kind of face in the piece there. Let me kind of shuffle through a little bit and see them. Look at his back here, so you can see those soft goods. From a customizing standpoint, I mean, what I really like about this is it's a new body color. It's a different body color. We've gotten green ogres before, but they were a very different type of green. So this is almost like a deep hunter green, you know, some highlights obviously in front and some of those cracks. It's actually a good look at the horns on the head. You can see how that all lays out. Yeah, very, very cool. So this is one I'll my honest opinion on this one. This was one of my sleepers. This was one that I thought was cool in photos. When I saw him in person, elevated how cool I think it was. Super excited to have this in my collection. I don't know how many I will get of these from a customizing standpoint. Um, it is fairly unique. It's got the hooves. So if you don't want to do a hooved character, if you don't want to do a demon or something, then you immediately have to find a solution to replace those hooves. So that's number one. With all the greens in the chest, you can certainly paint over them, but there's a lot going on here that is very specific to this character. So I could see people doing different color schemes on the character like they do. You see that with like Azar and Zazar, that they paint them different colors, red demons and purple demons and stuff. So I can see people doing that with this. And I'm sure people are going to blow me away with their creativity. From my perspective, this is one that I haven't come up with a ton of custom plans for yet, which I'm totally cool with, because not every figure in the line has to be perfect custom fodder for me. I'm totally happy with figures that as is are essentially perfect, and I don't need to do anything else to pull them apart and use them in other ways. Awesome. Chris saying he doesn't care for the waist armor. It's very specific to the character. So if you're going to use it for something else, that would be something you might want to change, certainly. Durku saying a lizard head might be nice on him. Yeah, that might be kind of cool. A lizard type head that would go with the green pattern and stuff like that. Rosedale saying my second favorite figure of the wave. Who does a demon go to get armor like this fitted and forged? Well, he's a demon king of the Nether Realm, so I'm sure that he found some kind of shop to go to in his Nether Realm home world to get outfitted for that armor. Awesome. So yeah, great figure. Really, really like the overall look of this. Accessories that he comes with. There's a headshot there. So 2 pairs of hands that he's going to come with. So that's kind of nice. One that's a little more open, one that's kind of more gripping for the weapon. He's got those magic spell effects. And remember, he's ogre scale, so those are fairly large effects. And then he's got that gigantic oversized staff type piece, which is super, super cool. I'm actually very, very curious to see how the staff is going to be produced, because the prototype, Nate Barch was he was saying this multiple times because he liked it so much. The way that those pieces were made, they were almost like these lines and like striations in the orbs themselves, and it was just a product of the way they were painted. It wasn't necessarily intentional from what I heard at the studio, but it made a super, super cool effect. And Nate was like, oh, if we can keep that looks so good. So I'm curious to see how those actually translate into the final production figure. Adrian saying the figure is perfect in my opinion. I've got to agree with you. This particular figure was painted by Cameron Smith. Cameron did a number of the figures in this. Cameron and Sherry kind of split duties. Cameron did a wonderful, wonderful job on the paints for this one. All right, so let's see. So after Azahazar, the next one that was shown was, if I remember correctly, Samir. I got to tell you, Samir is one that I really, really like. He's just, I did hear some people complain or offer their constructive feedback that why are all the wizards in this line bald guys with beards? And yeah, that's a fair that's a fair assessment. The fact that we definitely got some bald guys with beards in this wave, but I think it works. I love it. I know Visionary, who just said woohoo. I know he was super excited for Robed Wizards. So Visionary is someone who, like me, has been around for Horsemen Studios for a very, very long time. And like me, Visionary is one of those people that from the earliest days were like, this line is great, but where are the Robed Wizards? You know, I've said this before. Classic Robed Wizards were the biggest missing piece of this line from that earliest wave. When 1.0 first came out, to me there were three pieces that were missing: females, thinner characters, specifically elves, and robed wizards. Now, with Advent of Decay, they took care of the first two. That gave us females, that gave us elves, but we still didn't have robed wizards. We had wizards. We had magic users, I should say. We've had magic users in the line since that first wave. But Joran Runeshaper, I'm okay with a dwarf wearing heavy plate armor as a magic user. I mean, they're maybe like a sword mage type character. I get that. But there was an incredible desire for these type of characters. And I will say that the wait paid off because these look amazing. Love the way this character looks. I love all of the details, all of the little trinkets. So, one of the things that I like that they did was they combined soft goods with plastic pieces. So too often I feel like they make a plastic action figure and they just throw soft goods on top of it. And it almost looks like the figure is wearing like a bathrobe or something. I love the fact that what they did here is that belt with all of those magic pouches and everything and that book and that goes on top of the soft goods. To me, it really ties it in really nicely, and it makes it so some of that action figure toy type things that I'm looking for are still present regardless of whether it is fully robed or not. I like that very, very much. So let's look at the different photos that we have here. We'll do kind of all the turns. Big cool magic staff. That's another cool thing about this line that I saw some people pointing out. A lot of new accessories. Now, let's be honest, we needed new magic staffs. The magic staff that was introduced with the first Kickstarter wave, I never cared for that staff that much. It's really, really thick. It's really, really big. It works wonderfully well with certain characters, but you don't want every single magic user using that same staff with one of the two top attachments. So again, this is what they're doing. As they give us these new waves, they're saying, hey, we've got to put some of these more character specific accessories in this. We need new magic pieces here. Love this one here. So this is a great shot because this shows Samir with the hood down. I love the look on this. I will tell you one thing about this figure. When I first saw the photos of this figure, I thought it was I thought it was a white dude, right? Just because the way the lights were hitting it, the highlights of it, I thought when I actually saw it in person, it had a much darker complexion. The character is actually meant to be more of Indian descent. So the when I saw it in hand, the complexion, if you watch the GCon broadcast, you probably saw that there as well. It's got a little bit of a darker complexion than I think the photos actually show, just because of the way the light's hitting it. Love the figure either way. Love the sculpture and everything here. And this shows him kind of in more of his action shot. You can see a little bit of his armor underneath there. You can see that's the typical kind of like elf lower legs. You can see the loin kind of piece popping out there. That's the typical elf piece. His torso is just that typical male elf torso. The arms are the typical male elf, 2.0 arms. But like I said, we're going to get some photos of those up so people can actually see them and see what's under those robes. Headshot that we have there. And then I think we got an accessory shot. So really cool. These magic spell accessories are super cool. And again, I said I'm not a big soft goods guy. I'm not a big spell effects fan either. Like I'm I'm sitting here and I'm looking at my Marvel Legends display, and a lot of them, like whether it's Doctor Strange with the spell effects, or a character like, I don't know, I'm looking for one. I can't. I'm drawing a blank because you know why I'm drawing a blank? I'm trying to find a character that comes with like blast effects or spell effects, and I don't display any of them with that. So I'm looking and I'm saying, like, which one should have had it? Like Havoc from the X-Men or something. Those type of effects, I never display them with those, so I'm not a big fan of that. That being said, the ones that are coming out in this line are easily the best that I've ever seen for these type of effects. They're super cool. They're super innovative, and I think that that photo of Samir that I just saw, oh, this one here, I think you can see there how cool they look. So from a customizing standpoint, obviously I'm excited for the base body under this figure, just because I've had some custom ideas that I want to use 2.0 bodies for. And the way this line works, there was a point where we were drowning in 2.0 bodies, but we had no 1.0. We were like, oh my God, all I've got are elves and females. I really need some barbarians and orcs, some of these bigger bucks. And the tide is shifted, right? Now we're getting between, All Stars 4 that's hitting, and, the waves that are coming out. We're getting so many more of the 1.0 style bodies, but now the 2.0 have largely dried up at, online and stuff. So super excited for that. Again, I love the head sculpture on this. I can imagine that head sculpture being used in a couple different ways. I also love the fact, I'll give you a little teaser. I wrote a couple articles for Source Horsemen that haven't been published yet that really delve into the lore of the magic of Mythic Legions, the magic of mythos. And one of the things I mentioned in those, that if you dig through all of these, there's so many different kinds of magic disciplines that we're seeing in this wave. So I can imagine even this character being a different kind of wizard type character. I've done a lot of monks over the years. I could see this character being used as a monk. The Zenday character that we're going to look at in a minute, I could see him as a monk as well. So this is a figure that from the body, from the head, I can absolutely see there being some customizing potential value in that one. Let me see what I've got for questions. Visionary saying blasphemy. I don't know if you're saying blasphemy about what I said or what someone said in the comments here. What are the paint jobs like on those bodies? They're pretty basic because they're meant to be covered up. So they're not going to be heavily detailed paint jobs. They're probably going to be pretty basic, almost like brown leather type pieces, almost like Legion builders underneath there, I think is what you're going to actually see. Okay, let's see. Going here. Yes, people are telling me which Marvel Legends figures have blast effect. Okay. Awesome. So the next one, if I'm not mistaken, that was shown was it Arazek? I'm going to do Arazek either way. So kind of back-to-back wizards. This, we saw the heroic wizard, and I love, we got the classic heroic wizard in Samir. Now we've got kind of this classic evil wizard in Arazek. Love this character. And again, this is a perfect example of what I was talking about, the plastic laying on top of the soft goods. The fact that this top piece, this kind of like, collar and shoulder piece lays on top of the soft goods really, really changes the profile, for me at least, of how this figure looks. Again, it adds it kind of holds it down and really tightens it in. I love that. They talked about this on the broadcast, but little details like this, I absolutely love. This character is an evil character. He's from the Circle of Poxus. Should have probably mentioned that. All of these figures in the Poxus wave are of one of two factions. Like what we saw in the previous Horseman waves, it pits one of the evil factions versus one of the heroic factions. In this case, Circle of Poxus versus the convocation of Basilia. Convocation, yeah. Poxus is a very insect-driven character, as we're going to see when we get to him. So I love the fact that this magic staff has those insect-like qualities to it, those bug legs. Very, very cool. Super evil-looking head. As we go down, we can see that belt that's got those vials. And then this actual pattern that is on that soft goods was just gorgeous. Seeing that in person, so incredibly crisp in that extra level of detail. And that's one of the things that I saw a bunch of people point out for this line that I think is really, really impressive, because a number of people were worried about the addition of high quality soft goods like this really escalating the price point on all of these figures. Again, I mentioned Mezco earlier. And while these are not, I mean, Mezco are maybe more soft goods than some of these, although a figure like this has got quite a bit. I know people were worried that this was going to bring these up into that $75 to $100 Mezco range. The fact that the studio is producing these figures, this is a standard figure. Okay, the three figures we've seen so far. We started with the ogre scale figure, which I believe it was at 60 for that one. I will go to Store Horsemen and I will tell you. I know the standard figures held tight at $37. So yes, $60 for the ogre scale figure, the demon. This standard figure held tight at $37. The fact that all of these soft goods are being added and the price point is staying there, I think is a testament to Four Horsemen Studios really wanting to do right by the fans and give them more value. Very cool. So you can see little details like that, little pouch that's on the belt that you have there. You can see a little loop over there where you can put something. I love those little features like that. This is another cool way where you can see more of that kind of back piece that just adds that super evil type look. Very cool. So I really like this figure here. And this is another figure that does come with some spell effects. Let me get to that piece there, the accessory shot. So here's the accessory shot. So we're going to get 3 sets of hands, that magic staff, and then we've got a couple of those lightning bolt things, which were absolutely crazy. Because remember, at this point, all of these parts, all of these new parts, these are 3D printed pieces that come off the printers and are painted. When you see how incredibly fragile those pieces are, now the production versions won't be. The production versions will be, injection molded plastic, so they're going to be a lot more durable. But understanding, I mean, these pieces, to have to go from the studio to Trevor to get photographed, back to the studio, set up to Legion's Con, back to the studio. The fact that they held up the way they did is fairly amazing. They are so incredibly thin. I love them. RM saying, I don't understand how they can offer figures with this level of soft goods for only a $2 price bump. I love it, but boy, how are they profiting? And it's actually the $2 price bump was just something that wasn't because of the soft goods. All the standard figures bumped from 35 to 37 back when Cosmic Legions was done. So that bump is not part of the price here. It's because of the soft goods. That's just the price of standard figures now. Christo saying, does the armor hang over the shoulders or plug in? Honestly, Christo, these are still prototypes right now, so I don't think they've totally figured that out. I believe the prototype right now, it just kind of like clips onto the shoulder. I don't know if it actually plugs in a back piece or something, but some of that engineering is still being figured out with the factory. Because once again, what we're looking at here are still prototype pieces. Very, very cool. Crystal saying, I hope the prices don't get much higher. Part of the reason I love this line, well, considering it's the first time they've raised prices in essentially the 6 years the line's been out, I think you're pretty safe. I think that these are the absolute best value on the action figure market, considering what you get at this price point. Clearly, I'm a little biased, but I also do feel that way. Awesome. Okay. Yeah, Nate's saying you can hardly get soft goods for that price, let alone amazing figure and accessories. Yeah, it's absolutely crazy. They're doing a wonderful job, keeping these in. So super cool figure. Like I said on Samir, because I do want to talk about the customizing potential. So this figure underneath it, I believe this one has black armor. Samir has kind of like the leathery browns. I believe this one has more black and everything, which will be super, super cool because while we've gotten that elf style build in black colors, we haven't gotten one that's more Legion buildery in terms of being like just a flat color, all one color. We've gotten like the Shadow Elves, we've gotten the Vampire Knights, but they are, they've got other colorways to them as well. So from a customizing standpoint, I do think that the base figure under this character is going to be very, very cool. I'm also interested what they're going to do with the extra soft goods. Like, because if you get this figure to use the base body and you pull off the accessories and the armor and the head and stuff, you're going to have those soft goods, which are high quality, nice soft goods. So that's going to be really interesting to see how people treat that and what they actually do with them. Next one I'm going to look at is the figure who had an extra head reveal today, and that is Thrace Wraithhaler. So one of the cool things I love about this character is she is a brand new race that we have never seen before. And I'm not 100% positive how to pronounce this. If it's Humangist, Humangeist, I'm going to say Humangeist. So this Humangeist character, if you read the bio here, which I have on screen, it talks about them being a corrupt supernatural mingling of flesh and phantasm. So it's kind of like a living ghost. Like, that's cool. And she's a summoner, so she's got these inherent powers, but she's also learned these summoning skills. That is super, super cool. I've heard a number of people talk about this just being a gorgeous looking head sculpture. My buddy Lord Steven gushed about this multiple times. It is a haunting looking character. The detail on the eyes, Trevor, people were asking him about this figure. They said, hey, did you light those eyes in Photoshop or whatever? And he said he cleaned them up a little bit, but he didn't light those eyes specifically. They captured the light of the photographs like that. They are just gorgeous, gorgeous paint jobs there. This figure uses that torso, which interestingly, when we were doing G-Con, I actually asked Eric if that was a brand new torso because I didn't even recognize it as being the torso that comes on the new Artemis Silver Cord. Now, granted, that's a figure that I don't have in hand yet, so I haven't used it for displaying, customizing, so I'm not familiar with that part. But even if I was, I'm usually pretty good at identifying parts and where they came from. This is such a different usage of that piece. The overall character is so different that I did not recognize it. Love the fact that here we are seeing soft goods, but unlike what we saw with Samir and with Arazek, it doesn't cover the whole body. We've got that upper torso that's still, the plastic. We've got the soft goods robe, and it looks like we've got like a couple different layers here. And then we've got the soft goods around kind of the loin area, almost like the skirt type piece. I love that look. That's one of the things that we've started to see in the last few waves, I should say, doing more with the skirts. And that's something I've jokingly said this before, that early on in Mythic Legions, everyone had like the waist armor in the loin. The only skirtish type thing we had was the characters that came with more of like the tunic chest and the tunic loin, but we didn't have full on skirts. On the flip side, Lord of the Rings, everyone wears that style in Lord of the Rings. Middle Earth is apparently really big on fabric that goes below the belt. They love that. So in my early customizing, I used Lord of the Rings a lot. One of the things I did all the time was literally break apart a Lord of the Rings figure, pull out that skirt piece, integrate it into a Mythic Legions figure to get that kind of different look that we didn't already have in the line. So it is super cool to see that coming into the line with some of these new figures. See what people are commenting on. Vampire Sorceress. I wish she had bare arms and legs. Yeah, that's a pretty easy change. I mean, they might not be the same skin color, so you have to paint them. Fireside, is the new head sculpt a new facial expression, or it's just the hair? I believe it is just the hair. I've seen them both in person. I'm almost sure it's just the hair. One of them is kind of positioned, and it looks fine without the hood on, but it is kind of made more to have the hood on, where the secondary head that got revealed today that I'm going to show in a moment, the hair is a little more dynamic. Yan is saying many in the Chinese market say they will purchase this beauty as many as possible. So apparently Thrace is, definitely got some fans in that market. That's super cool. I think that a lot of people here domestically and across the world are going to buy a lot of this one. Yep, great necromancer. Very White Walker energy. Yeah, it's a cool point. I didn't necessarily see that, but I can see where you're coming from there. Love the magic staff too. Seeing that staff in person, it's really nice and thin. It's got that little orb on top. It's a very crisp looking magic effect, magic staff, magic weapon. The magic effect, that little kind of spray that she's got, not spray, but that little spiral with a skull on the end, that's super fun as well. Absolutely love that. Yeah, great looking figure. The profile of this thing is just gorgeous. Good headshot there. And let's see. So I think this is the new figure. Yeah, so this is the new head that was revealed today. This is actually the photo that was accidentally posted on Store Horsemen when the sale first went live, which I was made aware of because after G-Con was done, there was kind of recharging after that, went back to the hotel, hung out with a lot of people. And it wasn't until I got into my room, or I think it was actually when I got up early the next morning, that people told me that some of those images were out there. So I was on Store Horseman like 4 o'clock in the morning trying to pull these down. But all's well that ends well. So very cool. You can see here with that second head. And if I look at this one here, this will probably be a better example where you can see the two different heads. So you can see the face sculpture, the expression happens to be the same on these two. Really, the big difference that you're seeing is the way that the hair is actually sculpted. So that's the difference on these two. And then if you look at the rest of the accessories she comes with, she's got that cool magic effect, which you're going to be able to wrap it around the staff so it looks kind of like they're casting. And then she's got that other smaller type effect, which you can put around her hand or I believe around the top of the staff as well. I think that'll be kind of cool. This is one I'm excited for a couple different reasons. Obviously gorgeous looking figure to begin with, but getting those new female head sculptures, that's super cool. I love that we're getting those new things. I'm excited because a lot of the female, so far in the line, female head sculptures that don't have helmets, we've got the one that was used with Gwendolyn. And then I think really after that, I'm looking around, we've got the female head that's in the hood. And then we've got a bunch of elves. We've got the Maria Golden Branch. We've got the Fallon Frostbow. But it's really nice. Artemis Silvercord. It's really nice to see another female head sculpt because I guarantee you that this sculpture, painted totally different, is just going to transform. It's not going to look like this human geist type character. It's going to look like a totally different type character. And it doesn't have like the pointy elf type airs. So I think this would work really well for people that want to have more female human type characters, or even put different female characters on existing bodies, like some of the helmeted characters to have the unhelmeted versions. Greg, I don't know that they've ever thought about making the hair detachable. I think they just do second heads. as opposed to different heads that do that. I mean, the nice thing about different heads is this line is so customizer driven that if they do like one piece of hair with a bunch of different facial expressions, you use that one piece of hair and you get a bunch of different heads you can't use, right? Because it's just heads with no hair. By just giving you a couple different heads, obviously the line is grown in part because people say, hey, I can use this head over here and that popping and swapping. So putting full heads in seems to have worked really well for the line. Greg saying she works very well as a Drow elf. Yep, absolutely. Like I said, she doesn't have the pointed ears, but you could totally make her a Drow elf. Let's see. Staff is so elegant. I agree completely. Orb of summoning. That's cool. I like that. Awesome. Her head would look awesome on the Zeri body. Yeah, there's gonna. Oh, I'm telling you that the crossover potential between these two lines, Cosmic and Mythic, so incredible. So as we continue on, we're going to get to Zenday next, and it was interesting when we were doing, because when we were picking out the reveals and everything, we knew that people were expecting the demon as a Hazar. So we said, look, let's start with that because a lot of people are already anticipating it's going to be there, and we want it to come out swinging. That's an awesome looking figure. We thought that would be a lot of fun to come out with that right out of the gate. Then we started showing people kind of what I think they expected, because a lot of people expected rogue wizards. So showing them Samir, showing them Arazek, that checked off, heroic wizard, generic, evil wizard, not generic, heroic wizard, evil wizard, bang. Really good interpretations at that. Thrace was something I don't think people were expecting, but that was super cool. And then we get to Zenday, who I really, really like. So my friend Bill from Dorklear, he really likes this character because he's a teacher. That's one of the things that he really, kind of focused on right out of the gate, that he's a teacher of magic. I love that as well. To be totally honest with you, I didn't notice that at first. Like when I posted these bios, I read them, but I read them so quickly because I was working to get them done and posted, that I read that he was a teacher, but it didn't really resonate with me. And then when Bill pointed out how much he liked the fact that he was a teacher, it made me like Zenday even more because I totally respected that. This is what I was talking about earlier, where I said we're starting to see some of those parts that we got in like the Alithia wave make an appearance in this one. And this is a perfect example of that. So this figure here uses, and by the way, I'm just gonna prepare all of you. This new torso Krotos that we first saw it on Krotos, this torso in like waist piece is my jam. I love these so much. Once these are in hand, I'm warning you, I'm going to abuse them. I'm going to use them like every time I'm going to start a custom and I'm like, so what torso should I use? I'm probably going to lean to this one. I'm going to have to force myself not to use this one sometimes because I love it that much. I just think it's a great looking piece. I think I've heard a number of people say it's got a very samurai feel to it. I think with the right treatment, it totally will work as a Mythic Legion Samurai. I think with the right treatment, it just looks like leather type pieces. I absolutely love it. I think it looks like light armor, can be heavy armor. It is very multifunctional. So I like Zenday a lot. I love those pieces. The upper arms and upper legs use the kind of fabric type, for lack of a better term, the fabric type pieces that we first saw on like the Valak and the Lord Bardrick characters from Poxus. So I like that. I like the fact that he's got the soft goods, but it's just kind of a hooded, like a hooded cloak, as opposed to a full robe. That's really, really cool. Very intricate magic staff here. This is the one, like I can absolutely see using this head. I've got a number of Mythic Legions monks that I did years ago, and this guy is going to fit in with those monks absolutely perfectly. That's right out of the gate. I know one of the customs I'm going to do is I'm going to turn this character, give him, a bare chest, and I'm going to have to figure out which body parts actually fit color wise with this head. I may have to do some painting, but It's okay. I'm not afraid of that. But bare chest, bare arms, love that. Or maybe kind of like the fabric chest with bare arms. I'm going to absolutely use this to make a monk out of. The rest of his armor pieces, I love the body. He's actually got the red shield soldier type shoulder armor. I love that as well. Headshot there. And there we go. Very cool. A couple pairs of hands. So we've got gripping hands and casting hands. We've got some spell effects. And then we've got that super, super intricate staff. I like Zenday a lot. I think this is a great figure. Let's see. I'm using that head, arms, and legs in Cosmic. Awesome. Yeah, all the non-armor pieces from a Lithium, Poxus, or a Breath of Fresh Air. I agree completely. My plan is to swap the Magnus and Zenday heads on the bodies. That'll look cool. Yeah, there's going to be a lot. Yeah, Zenday looks just like Michael Xavier. That was really funny when that got revealed. So Michael was there at the studio when this got revealed, and I wish I would have been in the intern room when he got revealed, because apparently they were all like, "Oh my God, Michael, it's you. It looks just like you." That must have been a very comedic type situation to be involved in. So the next piece that we're going to look at here is Tharnog. Now, this is one that when we were doing this broadcast, I know a lot of people were super, super excited for the Wizards. They love the Demon, but this was the point where I think we really started to ratchet it up and give people things they weren't expecting, right? One thing I love about Tharnog, it's a new, or I say one thing, and I'm going to tell you probably 10 things I love about him. I love the fact that it's a new figure scale. So when you look at Mythic Legions, one of my favorite aspects of Mythic Legions is the fact that there are so many different sizes. We've got the goblins. We've also got my little mice now, right? We've got my little mice kit that makes them even smaller. But officially, we've got the goblins. We've got the 2.0, the elves and the females. We've got the 1.0 barbarians and orcs and so forth. We've got the ogre scale. We've got the trolls. That nice progression. This type of size falling between the ogres and the 1.0, I really, really like. It's a nice scale named the Brute Scale, thanks to Joe Vassapolo coming up with that totally appropriate name. I love this. So this is the size body that we first saw on the Centaur figure from the Alithia wave. And they've talked about the fact that at first they were just going to put a 1.0 body on the Centaur, but it felt too small, so they didn't upsize body. And anybody that knew where they were going with this had to say, well, we're going to see that size body eventually. They're going to make legs for it. And Tharnog, this orc shaman, was the first time we saw that. Now, one thing I love about this character is he is a heroic orc. Okay, that is super, super cool. I love any type of race or character or so forth that is from what I guess would be a traditionally evil type race being presented in a different fashion, right? Because I'm a firm believer that, not all orcs should be evil. Not all goblins should be evil. Not all elves should be heroic. And yes, we have the shadow elves, but I like that fact that we actually have some variety here. I think that's really, really cool. Interesting point on that. If I'm not mistaken, and I remember looking into this and wanting to research it more before I said this, but screw it, I'm going to say it anyway. Arazek is an evil character in the evil wizard. I believe he's the first evil human that we have in the line as well. If you actually look into it, I think the only other human type character that might fall under that banner would be Lord Vitiris. And Lord Vitiris is part of the Splinter Red Star faction. Is he, he's clearly not a heroic character, but is he an evil character? I don't know. He's a mercenary. He's a murderer. So yeah, he does some evil stuff. But true evil, like one of the actual evil factions. If I'm not mistaken, Arazek is the first evil human, and now we have the first heroic orc. Is Gorgo a human? We do not know. Juno, you're right. Juno is part of, so you corrected me. Thank you very much, slot. Juno is part of the Legion of Erether, so presumably she's clearly on the evil side. So I am wrong. Juno is with Erether. And now everyone is going to tell me that I am wrong. Yes, one after another, everyone's like, Juno. See, okay, I knew that. I was just testing all of you. You guys all passed. Awesome job. Thank you. Gorgo, I do not know if Gorgo is human, to be honest with you. If you look at his bio, it's got a question mark. They don't know what Gorgo is. I will tell you that if you pull off Gorgo's helmet, he has a skeleton neck post. So, back to Tharnog. I love the fact that he is a shaman. Look at all those beads and all those kind of intricate things that are in his beard of dreadlocks. Super, super cool. I'm going to do some. So this is one, too, that I wanted to take some shots without all of the furs on, because it is obviously hard to really see what's under that body with all that fur. But I love the fact that we're seeing the wrapped lower legs, the wrapped lower arms. Those are things that fans have asked for years at the 1.0 scale. So their barbarians weren't all wearing, giant armored clogging boots. Love this staff that he's got here. Again, the level of detail that is now being put into these characters, it's unbelievable. I mean, it's funny when you compare, as amazing as the early figures are, it's funny when you compare those to the level of detail that are going into the new figures. It's incredible how much the line has grown, how much as incredible toy makers as Four Horsemen were over the last 6 years, you see the evolution of their skills. And I mean, this is a golden age right now, seeing what we're seeing with this line. So super cool. One thing that they mentioned at G-Con is that particular hand that has the orb. It is all one piece for the prototype. It's apparently not going to be all one piece. It is going to be an open hand, and you're going to be able to clip that spell effect in it, which is kind of cool. Because if it was all integrated, you can only use it as like, hey, I'm holding an orb. But if it's a separate piece and if it fits well, you get two different looks out of it. You can do that orb hold, or you can just kind of have that classic like power metal type hand. That's pretty cool too. So he's got open hands, he's got gripping hands, he's got that cool shaman-like staff. Brute scale, I'm going to probably buy multiples of this to do customs with, like I know a lot of customizers are, because a brand new scale opens up so many other possibilities. I can absolutely imagine that the 3D companies, I'm certainly can tell you that Legion Shop and Wolf King companies I work with are probably eagerly going to produce parts to accentuate this new scale, new heads and stuff like that. So the whole idea of a new scale opens up just such incredible possibilities. Saying, need an evil dwarf. We do have a couple evil dwarfs, Mindless Focus. Bothar Shadowhorn, he's an evil dwarf. And actually, King Bromden Ironjaw and the Cavern Dwarves, they are all part of Legion of Erether, and they're aligned with the Goblins of Gob Hollow as part of kind of that weird relationship where they are working with the Legion of Erether. So we definitely have some evil dwarves already. Is the orb the same size as the orbs in Azahazar's staff? I did not hold them side by side, so I don't know if they're exact. They're definitely close. They're definitely close. And the ones in the staff don't come out. They're not removable. So I don't know where angle you're going, but they're probably pretty close in size. Blown away by the value of this wave. So much detail packed in. Yeah, when I saw the price on the figures, I was pretty surprised, which is worth mentioning. This new Ogre scale Tharnog is $47. So that's what the new scale is going to come in at. Okay. Crystal Ball needs to come with all the wizards, says Visionary. Visionary has spoken. He would know. Yeah, Greg's saying brute bodies being new and lacking custom pieces. It's begging for alternate eds. I mean, this, whenever you see, when Ogres first came out, right? When Ogres first got released, that was a new scale. It did not take long for the parts creators to really get inspired and to start pumping out some really cool pieces to transform those. We're going to see the same exact thing with brute scale. Okay. Awesome. So the next one we're going to go to is actually one of my favorite figures in the line. Big surprise. If you know anything about me and my work, you know how much I love genies and djinn. Really, one of my first customs I ever did was a blue skin djinn. I've told this story a number of times, but when I saw the name Azar and Zazar, I got it in my head where they just showed them as silhouettes that they were going to be maybe like a blue and a red skin genie type characters. When they weren't that, I was a little disappointed. So when I got Zazar in hand, I actually used an Arazek head and I repainted it blue and added a ponytail, and I made my own genie type character, which is still actually in my collection. One of my, my first real Mythic custom. And it's one that I've updated and upgraded through the years, but it's still absolutely on display. So I love those characters. When I saw Talazar, I was so incredibly excited. This is also a brute scale figure, and it is absolutely gorgeous. The details on this figure, I mean, wonderfully cool sculpture. That necklace, the paint work that Sherry did in the stones of that necklace are just phenomenal. I mean, they look like real stone. That really cool belt piece with all of those tassels are not soft goods. Those tassels are actually plastic pieces. They look so well done that they look like they could actually be soft goods. They are not. And I'm talking about the blue tassels. I love this sword. Interestingly, I didn't even notice this sword had a dragon hilt and it was blowing flames onto the blade. My son, Squire Gerard, he pointed that out to me. He's like, "Oh, Dad, look how cool that is, the dragon blowing flames." And that was a detail that just was lost on me upon my first viewing of it that made me like it that much more. Cool feet there. And I love the soft goods on this character. The patterns that they produced on this soft goods are just absolutely gorgeous. That huge ponytail. This, for me, this hits on all the notes that I wanted for a genie type character. You know, when I created my custom, I worked with what I had to work with. Them actually having the ability to do whatever they wanted. This is, I mean, to me, someone said earlier, Azar Hazar was a perfect figure. To me, this is a perfect figure. The way the soft goods work, you know, the gorgeous pattern on that skirt there, the way that other kind of soft goods piece loops through the belt, just all wonderful, wonderful pieces. I will also buy multiple of this character again, just like I just showed for the Tharnog figure. People are going to love this new scale. Looking at the accessories here, we've got obviously that necklace piece, 2 sets of hands, the sword, some spell effects, and this incredibly cool little magic lamp. That magic lamp is, to me, a perfect example of what the success of this line means for these type of figures. That is such a character specific accessory. There are some pieces that you're like, oh, they can reuse that over and over. They'll find a use for it. The only way they're ever going to use that magic lamp is if they do another djinn type character. So the fact that they can say, you know what, a djinn needs a lamp. We know it's not something we're going to get a ton of miles off of, but we've got to include it. The fact that the line is at a point where they can do that makes me so incredibly happy. People saying, Walter saying, badass character. Walter, nice to have you here, my friend. Thank you, Walter, for picking up the slack last week while I was having some family time. Walter did a live broadcast in the Cabal and filled in that gap. He looks like an Oni almost, says Durku. So interestingly, I love genies and I love Onis. So this is like best of both worlds. I totally agree. If you change around some of the, I mean, obviously the necklace and the soft goods, this has got a very genie-like look to it. But I totally agree with you. Maybe pull out the actually Onis can have ponytails. Maybe just repaint it a little bit, change some of the armor up. This is going to be a wonderfully cool looking Oni. It'll fit right in with Immortal Collections Onis, the ones they showed at Legion's Con. Those things absolutely blew me away. Super cool figure here. Let me go back to the comments. The hilt is stunning. I agree. Walter saying I should have taken this figure. Yeah, this is one of my favorites. Rosedale saying, in 25 years of collecting, the soft goods in this line are probably the best I've seen, and I'm not a soft goods fan. Rosedale, same. Exactly same. I'm not a super fan. They work so well on these figures, and they're so good. Yeah, smoke option would be cool. Absolutely. Only have many colors and styles. Absolutely as well. So Calazair, love him. Let's see, coming to the end here. This is one of the ones that obviously people freaked out for. And it may not be exactly the dragon that you wanted, but holy goodness, is this cool. And it's funny because I've painted a number of custom dragons, right? There are a number of part providers that have created dragons. Saba and Julie from Planetary Dog Toys, they've done some really, really cool dragon heads that I've absolutely enjoyed painting. But like I always say, the best customizers in Mythic Legions are the studio themselves. Seeing what they could come up with when they want to do a Dragon Man absolutely blew me away. So this character is another new race. This is a Dragosair, and he is a Paladin. This is a figure that I know a number of people have said this, so I'm not saying anything new. It is impossible to capture the color shifting aspect of these paints in still photography. All of these purples and blues that are on the back there, they shimmer. Like, this is another figure that I'm really curious how this is going to translate from, because I saw Cameron's paints on this figure, which are amazing, but to actually see the production version, I'm very curious to see how it's going to look. Now, this uses that same base body that we saw on the Kragnar figure, the four-armed Kragnar figure from Cosmic Legions. It is technically ogre scale, but because of the way the neck is, they had to basically redo the neck and the head to get the format they wanted, the kind of silhouette they wanted. So it actually makes him stand larger than an ogre. And I mean, his presence next to an ogre is pretty darn impressive. It's so much bulkier up there that if you look at it, it's almost like looking at a 1.0 in the brute scale, where they're close, but that brute is definitely bigger. It almost like this is ogre scale. The arms are ogre scale, the legs and all that, but just the way it stands, it absolutely has that type of presence. This is a figure that right out of the gate, I heard people saying, like, I need 10 of them. I got to paint them every possible dragon color. I need to paint one red. I need to paint one green. I need to paint one white. So this is one that I know people are absolutely going to love. This is going to be, I can see people like Nikki just going crazy with this, all different color variations. Nikki, that's something she does really, really well, where she gets a part and she explores lots of different colorways for it. I could see her doing that. I mean, she did that years ago with some of the Gothatropolis dragon type figures, making a whole bunch of different ones. So I could see her taking that same approach with this figure. Yeah, a lot of people asking for wings. You know, they held up the blue wings from the Arethyr wave on, on this figure during the broadcast. It looks super cool. I know a lot of people want even larger wings for it. I mean, it's not going to happen as part of this release. This wave is kind of baked. What's going to be is going to be, but who knows in the future? They've definitely heard the requests for it. Rosedale saying #1 favorite figure of the wave. Yeah, this is going to be a winner. This is one that I knew I liked. When I saw him in person, I liked them so much more. Just like Azahazar, the paints on it, just killer. Absolutely killer. Tristan saying, I really want those dragon bodies for the Onis. Yeah, dude, Tristan, I can totally see you doing that. Yeah, he dwarfs an ogre with the armor on. Absolutely. Fortress saying, before Poxus was announced, you teased your favorite Legion's character ever was in this wave. Was it Arakagor? It was not Arakagor. My two favorite figures, I said my two favorite figures ever in Mythic Legions are in this wave. It was the Jin Kalazir and actually Poxus himself, which we'll talk about in just a few moments. Yeah, the forearms will work. They just won't be blue. Actually, no. So if you use 4 of his arms, you could do that. Yeah, if you pop his arms off, the way they said it works is the Kragnar figure that has 4 arms, those arms in his back come out, and he actually comes with 2 plugs that you can use to plug up those holes so it looks like his back. This has those plugs, but the plugs now have holes in them, so you can put the shoulder armor on. If you unplug the shoulder armor and unplug those plugs, you'll have 2 gaps like you would on the Kragnar. So if you wanted to take a second Arakagor, pull his arms off and put him on the back, yeah, that should work fine. Justin saying it would be nice to see this guy in other colors. Again, customizers are totally going to do this guy in other colors. And then I cannot imagine that down the road in the line, we won't see more Dragosir in different colors. Horns fixed or glue, Walter? I think they're fixed. I mean, they might be separate pieces that are glued in as opposed to being part of the one, full, full piece. A lot of the horns, like Belphegor, right? So the Belphegor figure, the horns are actually, glued in, but if you force them out, you can do so. I would imagine the horns are probably like that. I'm really excited about his tail, Joe Gonzalez. Joe. I'll just say that. Gonzalez. He says he's really excited about his tail. Yeah, I agree too. I love that. That's a cool new piece. Is the tail removable? So what it is if you have the Equidron or Shadow Equidron, if you pop off the waist, you'll see the tail just has kind of like a little hook that goes around the waist piece. So this is different than like the 1.0 tails that was a little plugged into the boom boom port. These actually go right around the waist peg. That is how the tail for Arakagor works as well. Is the tail posable? Chris says. I do not believe it is. I believe it's one piece. I don't. It's not rubbery with wires in it or something. I mean, it hasn't been produced yet, so who knows? Maybe it will be, but I don't believe that's the plan. Okay, let's see. Customizers making a King Ghidorah. Awesome. Okay, so last figure that we're going to look at here, and I should just say that in addition to the figures, there is also the hands pack that was shown. So these hands, these are for 2.0 style figures. So you've got the human hands, you've got the green orcish style hands. Those are cool. The hands packs were definitely a sleeper in the Arethyr wave. I think a lot of people were like, I don't really need those. And then once they got them and they realized how transformative they were with the figures, they wish they had more. Evil magic effects. So in the evil magic effects, we're going to get 3 different or 6 different versions of this effect cast in red, these different effects, and then these. So very cool. Look at them all there. Nothing new. These are all effects that we have in the line, but all brand new colors. So if you're looking for different type of effects, these are a really cool way to do that. And there's also the heroic set. Similar pieces, that we saw, actually all the same pieces that we saw in the evil set, but done once again in different colors, blues, greens, and purples. So those are definitely going to add some cool effects as well. And then there is the magic weapons pack. All the pieces that we saw across the line, the different staves that came with Thrace and Zenday, Arazek, and Samir. We get all of those in different colors. But then we also get some of those cool accessories, the belt and the magic book and all those little pouches and stuff. I think I want multiple packs of these just for what you see on the left here. Those belts and all those pouches. All of that type of stuff, I think, is going to be super cool, super fun to use in customizing. And considering what the cost of buying 3D printed parts are, right? To buy 3D printed magic books and stuff like that, it ends up, to get all those little pieces, it costs a lot to produce them. So it's going to cost you a bit to get them. Being able to get these accessory packs with these fully painted pieces, talk about value. I'm picking up a few extras of these just to stash away for future ideas. That brings us to the final two reveals, and I'm just going to really look at Poxus here. I'll look at the horse too. This, I said, was one of my favorite figures. So I believe I mentioned this previously, but I'll reiterate it a little bit here. When I first started working with Four Horsemen Studios 2 years ago, one of the first things they did was they dumped just a ton of files on me to use for the website. And one of the things they gave me was like a property Bible, like a Mythic Legion's Bible, and a bunch of sketches and artwork and design stuff. And as part of those sketches were the Horsemen. So remember, this is before, Arazek had been revealed, but all the others had it. So I got to see what the actual Four Horsemen look like. Because as Eric mentioned, the Four Horsemen characters were designed well before Mythic Legions. Those were characters they had already conceived of very early on. When I saw the different designs for the Horsemen, the one that really jumped out at me was Poxus. Excuse me. 90 minutes into nonstop talking, throat gets a little dry. I don't have a script. I do this every single week with no script. So thank you for bearing with me. It's like stream of consciousness. Poxus, he's the one that really jumped out at me. He was just such a unique, weird design that I really wanted to see him translated. So seeing him here is just super, super cool. And this figure has a ton of new parts. Obviously, we've got this new head with these awesome bug type antennas, this crown he's wearing. The iridescent style paints on it are just stunning. I love the face because it's kind of a skull, kind of a zombie, just weird, absolutely weird. That soft goods piece around his neck, gorgeous. Love this new kind of like scaled type armor that he's got here. Now he's a 1.0 style figure, so that's a 1.0 style waist. One interesting thing, and maybe I'm going to say this is a first as well, but I messed up when I forgot about Juno, so hopefully I don't mess this up too. This is the first figure that comes with pauldrons that are not mirror images of each other. All the other pauldrons in the line, it's you got the left side, you got the right side, but they're essentially the exact same piece, just flipped. These are two unique sculptures, and you can see the one over here on the right. You can see it's got that crack coming up it, where the other one has that second layer. I love the fact that they did two different sculptures for that armor there. The arms, the upper arms and the hands, those are not skeleton limbs. A lot of people thought that that was just a skeleton type part that was repainted. Those are more zombie-like arms, right? They've got a little bit of flesh on them. They're not pure bone. So that's another super cool piece that I know customizers are going to love. And additionally, I know we're going to see that deeper in the line. Soft goods around the waist here. Lower body is all typical 1.0 parts, so nothing new to see there. Belt has so many little trinkets on it. When you get this figure, when you hold this in your hand, the amount of detail around his belt alone is going to blow you away. Obviously, we've also got this crown, this piece in back. It's almost like spell effect. And we've got those wings that we first saw on the Sphyxian characters from Cosmic Legions. At that time, a number of people said, oh, I bet you I know where we're going to see those wings again. We're going to see those on Poxus. And sure enough, we did. The bow and the quiver that he's got there, a number of people asked whether or not that's just a reuse of the existing quiver or if that is a new one. That is absolutely a new quiver that is being released for this. It's much longer. The bow that he comes with, let's look at his bow, and I'll come back to the horse in a moment. One funny thing about the bow, he's got two of them, and that's the Plague Sayer bow. That's one of the, in the lore of Mythic Legions, there are these epically powerful weapons like the Heaven's Brand Sword or the Silver Cord Bow. Those are the heroic versions. Well, on the evil side, we've got obviously the Aether Blade, which is what Gorgo and his minions use to bring back Irithyr. There's also the Soul Spiller. The Soul Spiller is what Lucretia and the Vampires of Ilithia's Brood used to call Ilithia back. And now we see the third of these weapons, the Plague Sayer, which Azar and Zazar used to call back their master, Poxus. These two versions, one of them is just the plain bow. One of them is kind of the powered up version with the wings. Eric told the story at the studio that he did both of them because he wasn't sure which one he wanted to include. And then when he saw them, they were both so cool that he couldn't decide which one to include. So they decided, of course, to include them both. Super cool there. Bran, he's got four sets of hands here. And again, those are new hands. Those are new zombie-like sculptures. He's got two different arrows, and those arrows, they have like bug effects on the end of it. So it's like he's shooting like power bugs out of his bow. That's super, super cool. Here we see clearly Poxus with his horse. The horse itself is crazy, crazy cool. Probably the horse is interesting because Balius is the most versatile horse we've seen. I see lots of people doing customs with Balius. I see them using it with the Mezco Conan figure, so on. Super, super versatile because it's a generic basic horse. Obviously, Atheon, Irithyr's horse, a lot more character specific. Phobos from the Ilithia wave is going to be pretty character specific. I think that this horse here, Phlogius, is the most character-specific one they've done. I mean, you're going to be hard-pressed to use this as anything other than a disease-ridden plague horse. And I'm okay with that because he's awesome in that fashion. One of the reasons is I love the fact that they didn't just, use all existing parts with a new head. They actually gave it this whole new lower leg with that cracked hoof and all that decay. Oh, that looks so cool. The armor type pieces that we've got on the horse. Let me actually go and bring up his page here so we can see some better photos of him. The detail on the head for this character, I mean, just absolutely gruesome. But I also love the fact, and they talked about this on G-Con, that they could have gone even more disgusting, really, really, really nasty. And they decided to actually dial it back a little bit and show some restraint. I think the figure is that much better because they showed some of that restraint. Let's see. I wonder if there is a Poxus female type. Well, he's a Lich. So he's another new race in the line. So yeah, sure, there could be female Liches, right? Jacob saying the dagger gets me excited. I love weapons you can sheath. I agree with it. That dagger's been around since Advent of Decay, but I love it as well because I agree with you. I love any weapon you can put in something to store. It doesn't just have to be like in the belt. Power bugs, yeah, the power bugs are pretty awesome. I'm using Phobos with Baron Valigar too. It's cool. Horse reminds me of the RSS hip armor. Okay, I'm not sure what that is. The horse looks wet and rotting. It's beautiful, and a head sop will be easy and cool. Yeah, it's a great figure. I'm gonna need extra sanitizer. Yeah, he's a super cool release here. Like I said, very character specific, but I really want my horsemen to have those character specific horses. I don't want them to have something that's going to be super versatile. Seeing the musculature there, that's super cool. And again, I love the armor choices that they did here. After getting a couple horses that didn't have this full kind of, I guess, tack and armor, to see that is very cool. Awesome. So that is really my breakdown of the Poxus wave. It is. I know I always say my friend Len likes to make fun of me because every time a new wave gets revealed, I'm like, dude, this is the best wave they've ever done. And he's like, you realize you say that every wave. And I'm like, it's because they keep doing the best wave ever. They keep upping their game. They raise the bar and then they exceed it. They raise it again and they exceed it every single time. Um, I love the fact, and I did see some people complain early on that they were like, oh, there's no skeletons, there's no knights. Look, skeleton and knights are hugely popular in the line. I get that people want more of those. Skeleton and knights brought a lot of people to the line. But I think that if you're a fan of the line, you also can appreciate that everything has its place, everything has its time. Rogue magic users, their time long overdue. Super happy to see them. Super happy to see brand new races like a Jinn, a Human Geist, a Lich. That's great to see. Super excited to see people of color. The fact that we've got someone that's clearly of Indian descent, someone that's got darker skin tones. I think that's great. The Otho figure is the lone, really kind of you know other type culture that we've seen, I guess, in the line so far, and he's so desirable. So I love to see. Mythos is a very diverse place. This is one of the things that we talked about on the special. So great to see some of that influence coming in as well. So many firsts in this wave. Again, really showing how the studio continues to expand. There are such great days ahead. I mean, there are just the things I know are coming are blowing my mind. So they are not slowing down. There is so much more to enjoy. I always say it is a great time to be a Mythic Legions collector, or I should say a Legions collector. It is the greatest time to be a Legions collector. And what is even better is the future is going to be an even greater time to be a collector than today. There's lots to look forward to. With that, I'm going to call it an evening. I'm going to check a couple more questions before I go. Armor on the horse is amazing. Need to keep this toy line fresh and bring in new ideas. Justin, I think they're doing that. I think that they're covering some stuff that people want. They're bringing in fresh ideas, and at the same time, they're giving people access to stuff like the Legion builders, deluxe Legion builders, and reinforcements to encourage people to have fun with these things and pop them apart and build legions. Awesome. If you have skull heads, you can make most into skeletons. Yeah, sure. Most diverse wave I've seen. I agree with you. Tell us an ogre scale dwarf is coming. Can't wait for more knights, but love how this line looks. Fantasy without the stereotype of knights and elves. Yeah, I mean, knights and elves. I'm sorry, Brett. It took me a minute to read your comment. I misread it the first time. Yeah, I love the fact that we get things like knights and elves. We cover. I mean, it covers a lot of the tropes that we've that we expect, but there's also just stuff like Thistlethorn, the Fuzzmonk. Like that's just weird. Like who would expect that? And the way Poxus looks, and getting a Djinn. Like a Djinn is not something. It's something I'm super excited for. But if I had to make a list of like fantasy tropes and races, Djinn would not be high on that list. A lot of other stuff would be above it. So seeing them expand and also creating things like the Human Geist, like fresh ideas, touching on some important tropes, bringing in some not as popular but still, common things from other cultures. Love all of that. Absolutely. Pablo, no plans to do blank unpainted figures. That's kind of what Legion builders are. I mean, literally, Legion builders are almost unpainted figures, essentially. If you look at especially some of the early ones like Bronze Dwarf and Silver Dwarf, that's pretty much what they are. And reinforcements are going to give us a lot of that. So Alexander saying next year's G-Con is Necronominus, but what other waves can they come out with? Do you mean after Necronominus? That just is the next part of the story. The story is going to continue going. Then we get to see what happens after the Horsemen are all revealed. When is the 4-foot dragons coming? How do you brine a turkey? No idea. I think you do, though, don't you, Walter? I saw you doing that. Nope, I'm not hoarding Sir Gerards. The Sir Gerards that were sold on Legion Shop will be shipping out very, very soon. We will have a small number of extras after we get those out. I just don't know how many. I want to make sure I get everything out first. Those will hit Legion Shop. Visionary, I don't know when the regular release of Sir Gerard will be, but it will be early 2022. It's definitely, it's not going to be while Poxus is going on, and Poxus is going on until January 9th. So it's going to be sometime after that, certainly. But that's handled through Store Horsemen, so I'm not 100% positive when they're going to do that. 8-Bit Monk, any comment on the complaints that the waves are too close together? For the record, I don't hold that belief. Yeah, I mean, this has happened since the beginning. When they did the first the first and the second Kickstarter, you had some people, they kept opening up new unlocks, new figures, new stretch goals. There were some people that were like, goodness, please stop. I can't take anymore. I can't afford anymore. And there were other people that were like, bring it on. More reveals, give me more stuff to buy. So there's always going to be that, that fight between, not a fight, but that some people say slow down, some people say speed up. The reality is, Cosmic, and they've said this, Cosmic happened a little bit later than they expected. When we wrote out the plan for the year, Cosmic was meant to happen a little bit earlier. There was meant to be a little bit more of a gap, but that's also one of the reasons why they made the Poxus. The Poxus pre-order is going on a couple weeks longer than they initially planned for it to go. The reality is the Cosmic Legions pre-order started, and now a couple months ago. Even if you backed that, if you purchased that on the last day that Cosmic was available, the last day from Cosmic to the last day of Poxus is about 3 months. So, at the end of the day, people want product in hand. If you want product in hand, you got to do pre-orders. That's the whole thing. You got to solicit product for the product to be available. We're going to get to a point very soon where a lot of this product's going to start hitting. I know that some people, that's one of their concerns, is the fact that, I've got so much stuff on pre-order. I totally hear you. If you looked at my Mezco pre-orders, the amount of stuff I have pre-ordered for Mezco 112 Collective is absolutely insane. So I totally get it. You're in good hands. These things are going to start showing up soon, and you're going to be super excited you pre-ordered when you did. Yeah, I would love to see more creatures as well. Tony's saying, will we see more changeling race? Maybe you will, but you won't know because they're a changeling, and who knows? No, actually, I honestly have no idea. That was me. I mean, I made the character a changeling. I'm suggested, hey, I really think this would be cool. I don't know that changelings were really high on their race of characters to do. It was something that I thought was really, really neat. So I don't know that they have any other plans to do more changelings. Is Squire Jacob coming? Yeah, he would love that. He's upstairs right now. Okay, let's see. Is Sir Gerard getting a cape like Lord Viterius? Dude, I'll tell you, I put, I'll get it. So the red capes that they had at Legion's Con and stuff, putting a red cape on the Sir Gerard, I think looks so darn cool. I actually am thinking of, instead of the red cape, the King Noglin figure comes with two capes that are like the same cut, a black and a red. I'm thinking of actually doing those and doing the black on the outside, the red on the inside. I think that will look really, really cool. But yeah, the Sir Gerard with a cape, it absolutely adds so much to it. Don't know. Greg, you're asking a lot of questions about things for the future. Anything's possible for the future, but anything that is already decided on, I can't tell you anyway. So I have to just keep deferring those questions and just kind of saying, like, who knows what the future will hold. When is the last day for pre-ordering Poxus? That is January 9th. Sunday, January 9th is the last day. Yes, Eric's son did talk about elementals. He was talking about them for the Cosmic Legions line, but as we will see, things that debut in Cosmic Legions, those parts are going to cross over into Mythic. We saw that with the Kragnar body being what we get for Arakagor, and we saw that with the Sphexian wings being on Poxus. So we're already seeing the crossover between the two lines, and that's going to continue. Star cost of shipping containers, I don't deal with that directly, but I mean, we're in the busiest shipping time of the year with the holidays. I would not expect those prices to go down anytime soon. Chris, farewell to you as well. And with that, I'm now 22 minutes over my time, so I am going to let you go. There's a ton of great questions. I'd love to keep talking to you, but I do need to call it an evening. So thank you all very, very much. I will be back next week, same Mythic time, same Mythic channel for Mythic Conversations. Until then, I can't wait for that conversation. Good night, everyone.